Big game here. We are certainly excited for this opportunity. Really, first off, want to tell our fans again how grateful we are for this past weekend. Thought the atmosphere was unbelievable for the Michigan State game. A lot of things we were able to go back and kind of evaluate, and thought our team played well in a lot of ways, but certainly some opportunities for us to clean up some things. But getting to play a great opponent this week, strong in all three phases. As a team, when you watch them, you really don't see a weakness. They're really strong across the board, and this will be a great challenge for us. And I know our fans will be great again this weekend. So that'll make that a fun atmosphere for us.
So here on the left, second row, Eric.
What are the challenges of preparing for an offense that's so versatile, has so many talented players, and has obviously been rolling so far?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what I've talked about with our team, and what we hope that we can be is you can't take away one thing knowing that something else is a strength as well, right? And they're not really limited in what their strengths are. They're able to run the ball really well. They're able to throw it well. Talented at multiple positions. Quarterback can run the ball as well. So there's a lot of things that present threats, and I think you have to be sound in everything you come up with. Be aware of any risks that you're going to be taking, and when is that risk worth it or not, and be able to play sound football.
On the right, Zach.
Oregon fans are very, they know about Chip Kelly a lot. What have you seen from him at Ohio State and what he's been able to do with their offense?
Well, I think he's always done a great job of utilizing his personnel, moving guys around and allowing them to do things that they do really, really well. He always finds unique ways to run the ball. I think that's, one thing that he probably doesn't get enough credit for is his ability to run the ball, regardless of the situation. And he's at UCLA last year. They were #1 rushing team in our conference, for a lot of reasons. And it's because of his ability to run the ball. But he does a great job utilizing personnel, keeping on your toes, changing the tempos, creating unique formations that you've never seen on film before. So you always have to prepare for something you haven't, really prepared for.
Front left, James.
As someone who's called the #1 defense in the country, what makes their defense unique in that way, and how they've been able to achieve the results they've gotten so far?
Yeah, it starts with them, they limit explosive plays, right? They do a great job of keeping the ball in front of them. They play really physical in the front. They're able to stop the run. They're really sound and aggressive at times in coverage, but they pitch a lot of different looks at you as well. But it starts, they eliminate explosive plays. They play really sound football. They have good overlap in their defense. They're able to change the picture up. They have, really good D linemen, good edges, and then they're able to cover, outside. So they create a lot of challenges there.
Right middle, Chris.
I know this isn't the first time you faced Chip Kelly, but I'm curious if his success that he had here in the past, if that still kind of resonates within the program at all.
In what way? What do you mean?
Just like does the success that he had, 10, 15 years ago, does that still kind of people still talk about that? Did you learn about that when you got here? Do you remember that era of Oregon football?
Yeah, I remember the teams that he had here. I think everybody respects him as a football coach, and certainly the things that he was able to accomplish while he was here.
Back right, Brett.
Coach, Ohio State has obviously 2-star wide receivers in Smith and Ibuka. What do you see from them on film, and what sort of challenges will those two kind of present to the Oregon secondary this weekend?
Yeah, stop, go. They can catch the ball and they can turn it into a big play right away. It's not necessarily always average depth of target. It's way down the field. It's their ability to catch it in space and get vertical. They block really, really well on the perimeter, and those guys have big catch radiuses. So you see them win on balls that you would call 50-50 balls. A lot of times they win on contested balls. So do a really good job there.
Back left, Matt.
I think in your career you've coached in 9 different top 5 matchups. Is there any common trait or thing you have to do in a game, in those games, that to win that's more heightened in this type of an atmosphere?
I'd say winning football is winning football, but I think you always look when you're playing an opponent, what's some commonalities in games that they haven't had success in and that you've had success in, right? Where are those places where you can find strengths? What are the pieces of the game that are going to matter the most? Obviously explosive plays and takeaways is always something that we focus on here, but, rushing game, I think that matters. Ability to win on critical downs in critical situations, red area, I think are all really important.
Back left there.
You and your players have just talked after every single opponent, just still about it being Oregon versus Oregon. How was that mindset, do you feel like, kind of prepared this team for this big moment this week?
Yeah, I think just the constant growth, the focus on what can we get better and if we attack the things that we need to improve on. And that's been our focus all year. And, throughout the season, I think you've seen us play better and better ball in certain situations and attack things that we weren't as good at the week before.
All right.
Does having knowledge of Ohio State's running back coach give you any sort of advantage this week?
I think that probably plays both ways. Like last week we played against coaches that have been here before. When we played UCLA, we played against coaches that have been here before. It makes you change your terminology. Like you're going to change the names of calls. Stuff before that might have been a run for us is maybe now a pass. Something that was going right is now maybe going left. But that's pretty easy for our players to do once you communicate that and change it. Certainly he knows some of the things that we like to do. On the same note, we certainly know some of the things that he likes to do. So, Coach Locke did a great job for our program. He's doing a great job for theirs now.
Second row left, Eric.
After Friday's game, Dylan talked about emphasizing protecting the ball in the red zone, that being a key. What are some of the ways you do that in a week to try to get those situations kind of figured out?
Yeah, you play red area football, right? You could put it down there, put the ball inside the 20, and you go, communicate what do we want that to look like. And if you expect to see it in the game, you got to see it in practice first. And he knows he wants those plays back. It doesn't take anybody special to recognize that he wants that back. But it's about how can we coach that better and make sure that those situations are avoided.
Our left, James.
How much more confident are you, Tosh, the defensive staff as a whole, in the CB2 position this year compared to last year when obviously those Washington games where they were able to exploit some things there differently than perhaps this year, or at least you hope for this year? How much more confident in that spot and the depth that you have there?
I'm confident in our players. I like our team. I like the guys that we get the opportunity to go out there and play with. I think our guys play competitive ball. This will certainly be the best challenge for every single position on our team this week.
Back right, Brett.
I believe it's been back-to-back weeks now of no sacks allowed. What do you think's been the biggest difference in the O-line in the last few weeks that's made you feel confident in their play heading into this?
Yeah, I think a lot of pieces add up to that. Timing, scheme is part of that. How we've adjusted some of the things that we do, I think, is a big part of that. And then the communication between the offensive line and the quarterback has also been really important there.
Back left, Matt.
A lot of attention's been on Jeremiah Smith, but Emeka has been pretty darn good too. What's just been your impressions of him and challenging facing another receiver of that caliber when they have two of them?
Yeah, they got more than just two great wideouts. They got several great wideouts in their program. Certainly, those two are very, very special. But whether it's Tate, there's a bunch of them on their team that can go play winning football. So that's what makes this a challenge. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to focus on this one guy because there's other guys on the field that can beat you.
All right, Zach.
Now, you guys talk about blocking out outside noise. Last week there was a lot of upsets, a lot of chaos in college football. Do you use that to your advantage to kind of hone in and to show your players why it's so important to have a single game focus?
I think our players are really aware of that. Our messaging doesn't change necessarily week to week. That's been something that's been consistent for us through fall camp, that it's about the guys in our room and what we're able to focus on, not what everybody else is talking about.
Back left, Aaron.
The last time that Chip Kelly came to Eugene, it was College game day. UCLA came in as an unbeaten opponent, ranked high. I know for you, and I think your profile picture, I think on social media, is still that one of you going to the College game day set. Just what do you remember about being there, being at College game day, and just your feeling of being on that set for the very first time?
Yeah, I think more than anything that day, I remember our fans and how much of an impact I felt like they had on that game, how fun that environment was for our players to get to be a part of. Obviously you come to a place like Oregon to play in big-time games, and this is one of those opportunities, but to get to be a part of big-time atmospheres as well, and certainly this is one of those.
Left second row, Eric.
Jordan's been so consistent in the run game, but it seems like it's been hard at times to find maybe a second runner. What's the key of getting Noah and Dylan more involved maybe this week?
Yeah, just that consistency, continue to find, opportunities to be able to block up runs properly for those guys and give them opportunities to win, on the second level.
Front left, James.
What do you see from Will Howard that's made him effective in raising his completion percentage compared to a year ago? And what insight, if any, can Kobe Savage provide, given that he practiced against him for a couple of years?
Similar to these other teams that we've played that have had guys that have kind of crossed over, I think, again, they do a great job schematically of finding, completions. If you're loading up hats in the run game, there's going to be some guys that are open outside. They've done a good job of throwing into open windows and attacking that.
Back right, Brett.
Coach, this program's seen a lot of big games in its history at Austin Stadium. You've coached in a few of them yourselves. Do you feel like this matchup against Ohio State, top 5, top 3 matchup, may be the biggest that this program has ever seen in its history?
I certainly can't speak to the entire history of Oregon. I think this is a really big game. I think this is a great opportunity for two great teams to get to play against each other. Again, I think that's why you come to a place like this, but I think this will be an awesome atmosphere for our fans and certainly our players.
All right, Zach.
Going back to Michigan State, did you ever get an explanation for why that hit on Dylan was not a late hit or a roughing the passer?
We sent it in. I haven't got a response yet on why it wasn't one. I was told that the guy watching it said that it wasn't. So we sent it in. We'll see what it looks like.
On the left here, second row, Eric.
What's Jurion done to kind of get a bit of a role? Looks like he got in there for the first time this last game. Kind of what's been going on behind the scenes that we may have missed?
Yeah, just being, part of it starts with him being healthy. Has been dinged up at times, but he's practicing really hard. He's working his tail off to be on the field for us, whether that's in special teams in a role at wideout, and it's created some opportunities for him.
Front left, James.
What makes their running back duo unique, and what's kind of the biggest asset that each one of those guys has in terms of how they go about running? Because stylistically, I think they're a little bit different than each other.
Yeah, maybe a little different, but on the same token, they're guys that have good size and speed, and they don't go down on first contact. They're really good at using their weapons. As far as at the second level, they do a good job with stiff arms, but they rarely go down on first contact, and they have really good vision, and they're patient until that opportunity window opens up. But when they see a hole, they hit it, and they hit it with great speed.
Last question, James.
Will's done really well at putting safeties in conflict to create some of those big plays that you guys have hit offensively. You touched on it, that OSU is just really basically giving up nothing of 30-plus yards. How have they been able to avoid that when that's been a strength of yours in particular? How have they been able to avoid it so far in these 5 games?
Yeah, I think that's a piece. They do a good job defensively of not creating conflict, of avoiding conflict, and their guys do a good job of farming their own land, not worrying about what somebody else is doing, but doing their job and being sound in their job. There's times where those safeties are high and they're responsible for the deep part of the field, and they let the corners fit the run. There's times when they're guys that are responsible for the run fit, and then those corners do a great job of covering downfield. So they do a good job of changing that up, and guys doing their job.
Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Your time.